Hey everybody, how's it going today? So we have a couple of exciting things to show you. Is my mic working okay? It sounds like we're all coming in through. You can hear the music a little bit in the background there. Before anything else, we have a new frame. I guess I'm pretty excited to show that off to you guys today. You see up here in the corner. I just moved it over. But in the future, we're probably going to be updating it a little further. But I wanted to make sure you guys could take a look at the threat without me having to keep on taking off the frame and whatnot. So we've switched that over there. For those of you who don't know, my name is Luke. I'm the community manager here at Fantasy Flight Interactive, and this is, in fact, the Lord of the Rings: The Living Card Games. Hey, Moradine, I'm doing pretty well. Trying to stay warm here in sunny, beautiful Madison, Wisconsin on this cold December day. See, I've got my jaunty yellow hat on, keeping my head protected from the elements. Yeah, I'm doing great, and I'm happy to be here today, and I'm really happy to be able to show you guys a little bit of the spirit sphere, which try to say that 3 times fast. That should have been that probably should have been the job application for me, if I could say spirit spheres 3 times fast. But in any case, we got a lot to show you today, and we'll get started in just a second, but I wanted to do just a little bit of housekeeping before we did that. So next week, there will not be streams because we are going to be gone out of the office for the holidays. So just so you know, no streams next week, but we should have a little bit of extra content for you to make up for that, including I was planning on doing a bonus stream tomorrow afternoon, probably tomorrow, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. This kind of serves 2 purposes because, number one, it allows us to kind of test out that 4 o'clock time slot, and it gives you guys a little bit of extra content because, we're not going to be around next week to do the regular scheduled streams. So I think we're going to be doing that. Not going to be showing off too much, probably the first quest again, so for those who missed that debut stream, you'll be able to see that for the first time and take a look at the first quest. Today we're going to be playing the second one again so that you can kind of see a little bit of how the Spirit Sphere plays compared to what you saw in the stream last Thursday. And of course we'll have a stream on Thursday at 1 p.m. again too. And I should have a special guest with me for that. Currently that's planned. We'll see if that all goes through. It's been a pretty crazy morning here at the Fantasy Flight Interactive offices. We had a little bit of internet trouble earlier today, so getting this all set up to make sure that I got you guys the stream on time was something that we had to make sure we got done. But now that's all set, and here we are, so we're ready to get going. Anything else that I need to go over first? We went over the schedule. Oh, yes, you are going to notice a couple of interesting visual updates to the board state once we jump into the first quest here. We've made a couple of changes already. We're always in the process of iterating, getting ready to push the game out in early access, so we've definitely heard some feedback already. So we started playing with some of those things as well. And we're also taking a ton of requests for features that we've got. Also, yeah, you can, if you've got questions, just throw them in the chat. We can see if we can answer them at any point. Yeah, feature requests, guys. The best place to do that is definitely Steam, the Steam community page. Not only because that's a good place for visibility, I see it, my boss sees it, everybody kind of has their eyes on there, but it can often get a conversation going with other people, and we can kind of get some feedback organically through that. So I would say that if you have any specific feedback that you'd really like heard, the best place to do it is on Steam, but you can always contact us on Twitter, Facebook, or even here in the chat. We're always listening. We're trying to make sure that your voice gets heard and we make this game the best game that we possibly can. So all that being said, I think we should jump right in. Yeah, one of the first updates that I definitely wanted to talk about today is you see the map. We've kind of updated it a little bit. It was a little darker before. We've lit it a little bit with this nice ambient lighting from the candles here, and you can kind of see some of the texture details. This is in fact supposed to be Bilbo's desk, I believe, and that's kind of the theme of the game, sort of, that as you're questing through these adventures, you're exploring these stories that the characters themselves are taking. We thought a lot about the I suppose you call it the subcreation theme that's present within the Lord of the Rings when we were creating this game, and how would we present that visually. So let's jump back in. As you can see, I have a new deck here with quite a low threat score, and that's because Frodo has a very low starting threat, and that's one of the exciting things about him as a character. So when I was building with Spirit, Spirit tends to facilitate very strong I would say, very strong control decks, but it can also race towards the objective in a really strong way, so that if you support it with combat-heavy heroes like Gimli and Arwen for our damage mitigation, Frodo can just work towards the objective himself, and we can kind of spread out on the board. As you can see, I'm omitting the leaderships here, as we know. That is because I'm not really trying to go wide with this deck. I'm more just trying to focus in on the objectives and the enemies. However, today I was playing a little bit around with a deck with Aragorn that tried to go wide with a bunch of allies supported by Frodo and kind of blocking him with Sentinel, and I think there might be something there, so hopefully in future streams we'll show some of that. Lalzar, I'm reading your question right now. I'm going to see if I can respond. Yeah, buffing and nerfing, that's a really good question. We are not taking an approach that's like, oh, we should definitely nerf this. Well, we're not going to take an aggressive approach, but we are going to play with numbers. So let me make sure I got this light on here so people know I'm streaming. As I was saying, yeah, things might actually get buffed if we feel that they're not in the right place. That's one of the benefits of early access. So we're thinking about this truly as a living game, both in the way that it's distributed and the way that it's played. Cards aren't going to change willy-nilly because of the pricing structure, obviously. Like, we don't want somebody to buy something and then wake up the next day and it's totally different. So we're still playing around with how we're going to handle that. But yeah, there will be adjustments, and they won't necessarily be one way. They will be two-way. That's a good question, though, for sure. So let's jump in. This is Flies and Spiders. This is that second quest that I showed on Thursday. And we are going to show you the first quest tomorrow on the bonus stream for those who might have missed my little preamble in the beginning of the stream today.
To find yourself alone in Mirkwood Forest. The last thing you remember is the sound of countless
No, Lalzar, there's still going to be adjustments, but early access is definitely the period where we're going to be playing with numbers the most, I would say.
Peering from the dark. You realize that the giant spiders of Mirkwood have captured your friends in the night, and it's up to you to find them.
Okay. Got a little text cut off there, that's alright. We'll get that fixed. Let's jump in here. And already you can see one of the new spirit cards that you haven't seen yet. Watchful Peace, which reduces a player's threat by 3. So some people were asking about threat mitigation, if that's something in the game. And it is here. Now, as you can see, our starting threat, which is not blocked by the Twitch overlay, is currently at 25, so we don't really have to worry about that. With that starter deck that we were playing earlier, which is really more of a mid-range deck, we were starting at a 31 threat. So here, that's going to work a little bit differently. We don't really have to worry about that as much. I think we're going to get rid of the caregivers because we don't need to get healed here. And we don't need faint. We could potentially keep Watchful Peace here. We could keep Round Shield as well. I think I'm going to ship Watchful Peace. Well, maybe you guys should see how it goes. I'm going to keep it just so I can play it and show you how it works. But we'll also keep Round Shield here. Okay. And we're going to keep Frodo. But first of all, we better show you guys what he does, huh? We drew our Gandalf. This deck's actually playing 2 Gandalf because it tends to sit on its resources because it relies on its heroes so heavily, so I thought they could afford it, but we'll see if that was a misguided choice. So let's take a look at Frodo. As you can see, he's kind of got this effect on him. That's because he has stealth. So there's Frodo in all of his glory, with only 6 starting threat. That's so low compared to the other heroes in the core set, and a lot of the heroes that you're going to be seeing in the expansions here too. Frodo has stealth, so he cannot be targeted before other heroes in your party. Right now, with the other heroes captured, you know, that's not much of a problem, but that's still something to think about. He has 1 attack, so he's not great in combat, but 2 willpower is pretty good on the base. 6 defense, too, will, it's going to take only a couple hits to take him down from most enemies. But when Sauron has 0 resources, that's when he can really shine. He gets +2 to his willpower, putting him at a whopping 4. So as you can see, that's enough to take down both of these objectives in 1 activation. There's this really cool mechanic that we've kind of baked into a lot of the hobbits where, to kind of capture the feeling of them being, you know, sneaky, not necessarily, you know, burglars, but not necessarily rogues in the way that you typically think about it. They do much better when Sauron's eye is redirected or when Sauron doesn't have access to his resources. So I think that this is a really cool design. He's one of my favorite heroes in the core, and you can do some really cool things with him. That being said, he's not great at combat, so I feel like we should maybe think about getting other allies on the board. First, I'm going to play Advanced Warning, and this card in this deck can be really strong because we're powering towards the objectives. If we can exhaust a villain before they're allowed to play, then we can tend to do pretty well here. So we'll play that. Now we can either play the Shield or the Took, or we can play Watchful Peace. I'm going to play the Wandering Took, who is a spirit ally. We also haven't seen this card yet. He's a 1-cost 1/1/2. So he's a pretty well-rounded for his cost. You know, it's kind of hard to find 1-cost allies, but he can kind of add to the board and hopefully contribute to getting these objectives off. With that being said, we cannot play any more of the cards in our hand. Has everyone seen Gandalf? We can take a look at Gandalf real quick if you'd like. He's very powerful. He's got Fleeting. Arrival, you get to choose one of these 3 effects that he has, which is you can either draw 3 cards, reduce your threat by 3, or deal 3 to an enemy. And then with those powerhouse stats, he can deal a lot to the board. Fleeting, obviously, he goes out of play once the round is over, so you only get him on the board for a turn. But generally, you're kind of throwing him into combat, so you want to maximize as much as you can out of that 4 health while you've got him in play. So he's awesome. Yes, for those asking, this arrow is to unhide the history that we were showing earlier, which is still a feature that's not totally complete, but here we are. So let's move into the adventuring phase. So Sauron, instead of playing another enemy to block the objectives, he just played this second objective, which has threatening. Normally, with Frodo, we want to move towards the objectives as much as we can. However, we've got a little bit of a safety net here because our starting threat is only at 25, so I think we can just go directly for the main objective, and hopefully we don't get punished for that by
I will go alone.
Sauron playing some sort of sentinel enemy. You see there's a little bit of an update to the card frames here. We've changed the metallic effect on their borders. We changed a little bit of other of the visual details there to make it more cohesive. Okay. And we'll end the turn. This is low on supplies. Sauron's just playing all the objectives that he can, and he traps our ally in a cocoon as well. That's too bad. However, he's out of resources, so now we can take out one of these objectives on its own, which I'm kind of considering here because, well, we could travel, but then we'll have 7 resources. So in the next round, we can play a Veteran Axe Hand, perhaps, and the Shield on Frodo. I kind of want to maximize this 4 here, though. We'll just move on to the next location. We'll just power through and get there. Okay.
For the Shire!
And we will move on to the next location, then. Yeah, because normally here I would play Watchful Peace because there's no real reason not to, but because we've got low on supplies on the board, it'll increase our threat by 1, so we really won't get the maximum value out of Watchful Peace. So I'm just going to travel forward into the next location. I believe the Took is going to stay in his web then.
Rescuing some of your companions,
well, let's find out.
But others remain cocooned. The spiders are now aware of your presence and descend from the trees that surround their lair. Yeah,
Tails, I'm a big fan of Wandering Took as well. 1-cost allies are few and far in between, and he's one of the spicier ones, I think. Okay, so we've got a Sentinel. So this is kind of where the deck starts to falter because of these Sentinel enemies. They're difficult to take down. Here's another Spear card that interacts with willpower in an interesting way, which is Favor of the Lady. Our Advanced Warning goes off. As you can see, the preparation cards stay from one board to the next. They stay out there. And we've got Favor of the Lady here, which gives the attached character +1 willpower. That's a special attachment. So it's pretty strong. So let's see what we've got. We've got plenty of resources, and we've got a Frodo at 4 willpower. So if we can get through this Hive Guardian, we can just clear the objective with 1 go. What's this attachment on here? Vicious Speed, so it has Vigilant, which means it gets 2 attack phases. Or rather, it doesn't exhaust for its first attack, which can be, you know, there's other reasons to use it. So it doesn't necessarily mean 2 attacks. I think I'm going to play Gandalf. And then maybe we can get an attack. Yeah, if the spider goes after Gandalf because of the stealth on here, then I think that that's probably a pretty good move.
I am a servant of the secret fire.
None of these effects are final, guys. Everything that you see is going to be a work in progress, as always. But you can kind of see what we're going for with these. Now we can either play a shield, watch. I'm going to save it and probably Watchful Peace at the end of the round here. Okay, and there it is.
For the Shire!
We could also technically clear off the Took, so it gets out of that cocoon, the poor Took, which we cannot get off of, cannot get out of this cocoon, but I'd rather just be able to move forward as quickly as possible. So here we are moving on to, and you see we get our other two heroes back from the cocoon to save them. One more attack, goes after Gandalf. With this last activation, before we move forward, we can finally save that poor Took. That's what he gets for wandering. We could even take down this this flock, but it actually is moribund, which is a death trigger. So when it dies, it'll give Sauron an extra resource. So it's just basically a way for it to Sauron to keep a resource on the board. We'll Watchful Peace before the end to drop down to 25, and then we'll travel. So we're currently at 26th threat and moving on to the third location, which is a pretty good score. However, we don't have a lot of attack stats still. So that might be a problem as we move forward, because those of us who saw the stream on Thursday know that this is when the quest gets a little bit more combat focused than it was in those first two locations. But we'll see what we can do. We'll see if we'll make it through. Our heroes are at full health, so... Yep, there's the Sentinel enemy. Blocking an 8 willpower objective there. Let's see what we can do. I think I want to play another ally here. Normally, what I like to do is, I like to draw cards before I do anything else to see my options, which is just, you know, good bookkeeping. But I think here we want to play out the allies so that we can get more on the board, and we have less of a chance of losing either our Took or Frodo from the attacks. So let's play the Veteran Axe Hand.
The dwarves are upon you.
Okay. We've got a full board here, and we're ready to move into our adventure phase. Spider goes after Arwen. I think it's just Sentinel, yeah. This is interesting because we could go after it with Gimli, which is the most logical choice, but then again, if it attacks... Well, there's no other enemy, so I think we'll go after with Gimli. Then we'll have the Axe Hand finish it off, dropping him down to 1 health.
I will go alone.
We'll have Frodo and the Took move towards the objective. I'm actually not sure those activations were correct. I think there might have been a better order to do that, a better way to split up our numbers, but we should be fine. We're still fairly ahead. Draw another advanced warning. We'll heal up Arwen because she's taking a little bit of damage here. Here, I'll show off Frodo one more time. There we go. He gets +2 willpower, as you can just see, when Sauron is depleted of resources, and he's got the Hobbit trait as well. You see the traits on the bottom there, which do come into play in other cards. In this deck, not so much, but you will see them. Sauron has played a King Spider and attached to it Despair, so after it attacks, it increases my threat by 1. Which isn't too much of a concern, but we do want to keep as low of a threat as we possibly can. Let's see what we got. Play another Axe Hand, perhaps. Play a Round Shield. Stop some of that damage that's coming into Arwen. I'm going to do that. And then Advance Warning. This Mithrander's Advice, this is probably the longest a card draw card has been in my hand without me playing it, but here we are. I really like this card within Frodo-focused decks because it kind of makes sure that even past the last line of defense, you have an opportunity before the enemies can come after you. And we'll end the phase there. We'll see where the Spider goes after. Kills the Axe Hand. That was about expected. It seemed like the best possible play.
For Rivendell!
Arwen is only... Well, with 2 activations, we can just finish off this objective without even having to worry about combat. Enemies only follow you to the next location if they have the keyword known as Pursuit, I believe it's called. And that means that they will follow you to the next location, and they'll retain their stats as they go on beyond there too. So they'll keep damage, they'll keep any buffs that Sauron has placed on them, things like that.
Webs when an enormous queen spider appears and blocks your path. Her many offspring gather behind you. There is no turning back. You must defeat the giant spider.
Okay, so here we are on the boss. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we've changed some things about this boss, so we might have a couple of, we might run into some funny things with the stats here, but just bear with me, we'll see if we can get it working. But, just like the game is currently in progress, yep. So he, no, we have changed it from the, I believe it was the Spider Queen to Ungoliant Spawn. Currently, the stats are at a 4-8. In the final version, I believe it's going to have 15 toughness. So it's going to be buffed up. This is one of those things that, like I said, we're playing with in development, but it's going to be a little easier for us to finish this off. Anyway, Sauron plays Watchful Eyes, so we have a place to point our Frodo. One of the real big difficulties, I think, with playing Frodo in your decks is that once you get to these end phases where he's fighting bosses, you know, there's not a lot you can do with his activations because he's not great at combat. So once Sauron starts playing out those other objectives, you really have something to do with him and make him shine while the other characters in your party clean up combat. There's another lookout. I think now it's probably time to play with Rander's advice, or maybe it is. Maybe it would be better to play the Axe Hand. I'm gonna play it. We have to fight through the Sentinel as quick as we can, so we need to make the most of our activations. So let's do that. Yeah, we heard the feedback on Ungoliant Spawn, so we are currently working on that. It's a work in progress. I'm not going to attack with Gimli in case the spider comes after it. I want to get that buff if I can, so I'll move with the dwarf first. Ooh, 2 attacks and Arwen is down. That was not expected. Do I send the Took after him? I think maybe I just attack with Gimli here. Yeah, no more attacks, so I'm just gonna end the phase here. Eventually I'm gonna have to throw this Took at the Sentinel, but I think maybe for now we don't have to. Let's see. So we can apply 2 progress to the objective for free with Secret Paths. I'm not sure, did I show this one off yet? I think I showed Watchful Peace. Secret Paths, 2 progress to an objective, doesn't care about Sentinel, doesn't care about anything else. Could be extremely useful to get rid of this thick webs that Sauron just played, which exhausts any ally that's played. So we can Secret Paths this turn, and also Ithilien Lookout. Try to fight through this Sentinel, and then have Frodo finish off the thick webs in order to play our Lookout next turn. That sounds like a plan. Let's do that. So first on with Randers, finally. Yeah, there's going to be separate voice sliders for both the music, the voice, the VFX as well. So you'll be able to control that as you want. And this is an event that we can play during the adventuring phase, so there's no reason to play it right now. So let's just jump in. Okay, that is a low health. There's a very low health Gimli there. That's no good. So I could just sacrifice him to take down the giant spider, but in that case the spawn is probably going to get in. Well, it's going to get its second attack because of its vigilance. So I'm going to have to do it though because I want to be able to play our allies. I think that's the only way we win. Okay, there's the second attack from that. We'll play Secret Paths. We'll apply 2 progress here.
I will go alone.
We'll have Frodo finish that off. We'll leave the Took on the board so that he can at least defend. If we attack in, we don't really gain much. Now I think we're just going to play the waiting game to see if we can get Gandalf on the board and finish this off. Ugh. I was not hoping for that. Advance Warning will exhaust that spider. That buys us a little bit of time. And now that Sauron is out of resources, we can effectively play we can effectively get rid of this thick webs because Frodo buffs up. But I don't know. Here we go. Because I wanted to play the Athelian Lookout this turn. But if it's going to exhaust, you know, we don't get a ton of activation off of that. So can we wait another turn? If we wait one, we probably Mithrander's advice, go down to 3 resources. Gain 3, go up to 6 next turn. That's not enough to play both Gandalf and Athelian Lookout. If we play Athelian Lookout, we go up to 4 resources again next. No, that's not good either. Let's see what we draw. Another Took and a Self-Preservation. I don't know if I just want to become a hobbit-flinging cannon at this enemy, but it seems like that's the only real option we have, because then we'll go down to 2 resources. As long as Sauron doesn't mess with our resources in any way, we can play Gandalf the turn after, and hopefully finish off the spawn. I'm okay with this guy exhausting because, you know, he's probably just going to take an attack anyway. But I'd like to be able to have some control over my Athelian Lookout when I play it. So we'll play the Took.
No point in sitting around.
And the attacks. 1 down.
For the Shire!
Get the webs off the board. And things went basically as we had planned there. We are not going to watch for peace. I almost said we might as well watch for peace, but we're trying to save Gandalf. There's Warrior Sword. Some people saw Blade of Gondolin last game. That card is now Warrior Sword, attached to gain 1 attack, and we've played a little bit around with what Blade of Gondolin is going to be. So hopefully we'll be able to show you that in the future, but I really love this piece on Warrior Sword, so glad that got into the core set here. Okay, well, let's Gandalf and see if we can take down...
Go back to the abyss!
We'll put 3 damage on the spawn here. With Gandalf's ability. And hopefully he'll be able to attack this sentinel enemy. Sauron might attack in with the Forest Spider, in which case we don't get a ton, but because of Frodo's stealth, he's probably going to stay on the board. So let's see what we got. Uh-oh.
You cannot pass!
No attack. Okay, no attack. Whew.
Go back
We'll
to
have
the
him finish
shadow.
off the sentinel here.
I
We can
will go
get rid of this
alone.
objective for free, so we might as well do that so that our threat stops going up. You see we're at 35 here. And I guess we have to end. We'll see if he comes into Gandalf. Nope. Doesn't. Knows not to attack Gandalf and doesn't. So now we'll play the Lookout.
My eyes see everything.
Man, this is going to be a tough game to win. Yeah, there's that. I could get 1 attack in on the spawn, but I really don't want to because that'll be enough for for him to just kill him with an attack if there's no allies on the board. So I think we just pass again. Threats up at 40. We've got 2 archers, so we can ping twice, and that might be enough. If we Warrior Sword on the Lookout, well, if we Warrior Sword on Frodo, we can guarantee an attack. He'll go down to 2. So I think we have to do that. Does everyone follow my logic there? Yeah, Lozar, we've changed the Lookout. Like I said, we've been playing around with abilities. It's currently just a vanilla 2/2/3 right now. So we'll see. There is a hand size limit. I believe it is... It's either 7 or... I don't want to... It's either 7 or 8. I don't want you to quote me because I might be wrong. There's a similar board limit as well for how many allies you can have in play. So the Swarm decks actually play a little bit different. The hand limit size is 9, just so you guys know. So as I was saying, the Swarm decks kind of play a little bit differently than they do in the tabletop version, but they are viable. They usually are in the leadership and I would say tactics sphere right now with the decks I've played currently. But I'm sure we'll see some more once the game comes out. So I'm gonna play my archers here. The archers could technically pick off this spider too, I suppose. I think that's just a safer play. So we'll have them...
You breathe so loud I could shoot you in the dark.
We'll have them pick off the other spider.
You breathe so loud I could shoot you in
Take him
the dark.
down. and end this phase. Spawn doesn't attack.
There.
Put that in, and we'll have Frodo finish him off for the win.
You have
And that's the quest.
defeated Ungoliant's spawn and rescued
All
your
right.
friends.
There we go. I love that Breathe So Loud voice. That is, like, by far my favorite. As for allies with multiple keywords, that can be something that we play around with in the future. You know, text boxes are not necessarily the be-all, end-all for what we can and can't do with a card. So we made it through, somehow. I was actually not expecting that. I was having some difficulty getting through that quest with choosing Frodo as the starting hero, but, you know, just powering through the questing there using those spirit cards was a pretty effective way to get through it, it seemed like, and I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So here we are on the quest map. Is there anybody who has any questions they'd like to ask us? Anything you'd like to know, anything you'd like to see for the upcoming streams, let me know. Peter, the AI can sometimes beeline to just attack directly on your heroes, so it's kind of about how you build the deck. You know, obviously the stats kind of play along into that, but playing a lot of allies who can help protect your heroes, kind of the exhausting system, making sure that you have preparations to prepare for combat, that's kind of how you prevent the AI from just going directly for the throat. And it won't always. I mean, there's other ways that it wants to stop you from getting the objective. You know, sometimes it prioritizes making sure your threat's high enough where you won't finish the game. But there's multiple strategies, not only for clearing the game, but for losing the game. So we see some of that. There is some advantages, Bunston, to clearing the board before traveling. A lot of the times it lowers your threat, depending on what the objective is, if there's pursuit. But if you can clear a board and move forward, you should probably do that as quickly as possible, for the most part. It depends on your deck, I would say. Yeah, I tend to go after a lot of the enemies in order to make sure that I get the board as clear as possible and the lowest possible threat when I'm traveling, especially in that core set main deck, which kind of plays like it's very mid-rangey. That's the leadership tactics lore deck that I was showing off on Thursday. That's the core starter. Speaking of, everything that you saw today is in that core starter set, so you will get those cards once you complete the tutorial. All those spirit cards, those are the spirit cards that you'll see. There's a couple more as well that I chose not to include in this deck when I was building it, just because it didn't complement the tactics and the lore. You know, this deck was kind of about board control and protecting Frodo and trying to get him to the end. Yeah. I would love to show you guys the deck builder. That's coming very, very soon, just so you know. People talking about asynchronous multiplayer. We hear you. We've heard that request, definitely, and we've talked about it. So, you know, like I said, with all future requests, that's things we can think about in the future, but we can't, you know, guarantee anything currently. But we hear your requests. As for sharing decks publicly, we are also working on that. We are talking about it. We really like some of the deck importers that you can see in some other games, so we're thinking about those as well. But we definitely want people to be sharing deck lists as much as possible, so at the very least, we'd love you to start sharing them on social media once you get your hands on the game and share them with some of the other people who are playing the game. We have not announced the prices for Valors for packs, so we will talk about that in the future as well. That's going to come up very, very soon. Let me see what else we've got here. As for other heroes that you haven't seen yet, you know, we don't want to tip our hand because that's some of the exciting stuff that we can do in the future. But you know, we have a pretty extensive content development plan for post-launch that we'll be able to go into in the future. So I think a lot of the I think what we're going to be doing for a lot of these streams is that Tuesdays are going to be kind of shorter, where I show off new features on my own, and then Thursdays are going to be times where I bring on a guest, and those might be a little bit longer and more in depth, and we can talk to them about how their role factored into making this game a reality. So we can get into more specifics based on those streams. But I'm pretty happy with that format. Hopefully everyone else is as well. These total starting cards, I believe it is other than the 4 heroes, I think it's 42 cards, 21 cards, 2 copies of each in the core starter there. So you'll be getting those once you complete the tutorial. Everyone will have access to those core starter cards. From there, you can expand your collection with the hero packs and with the Valor cards, which you'll be able to buy. You'll be able to buy those Valor cards piecemeal. Okay. Yeah, good math. Good math, Smack. Everyone will be getting Gandalf, who, by the way, was very much an important asset in that last game. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to play him because of the 5 cost. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get both of those copies on the board in time, but he was actually really, really valuable, especially with that last boss. Without him, I don't think Frodo would have been able to take down the spawn on his own. So I think that about wraps it up for today's stream. Remember that tomorrow we are going to be doing a bonus stream. I'm probably just going to be going through Quest 1 and taking a couple questions. It'll be pretty low pressure, but it'll be nice for those of you who just can't get enough, and it's kind of a nice holdover from for next week where we will not be streaming. Just want to remind you that we are not going to be showing anything on Tuesday or Thursday of next week because we will be out for the holidays. Okay. Sounds good to me. Thanks for joining us again, folks. You can always find us online at Twitter at FFI_games. Follow us there. We are just under 1,000 followers, I think, so we'd love to get that number up a little bit before the game goes into early access. Love to see some more stuff. You can come hang out with me on there. Share some of your thoughts on the game. Share some things that you saw on the stream that you liked. Just let us know. We will also be on Facebook at facebook.com/FFIGames. You can find us here on Twitch, obviously, at twitch.tv/FFIGames if you're watching this somewhere else. And we have a YouTube channel, which will start getting gameplay very shortly. I think we should be uploading some of these archived streams to there within the week. But I definitely want to get those in your hands as well. So hopefully that those videos will be up so that people can kind of take a look at them. I know people are kind of currently poring over the archived videos to get as many details as they can, and I definitely want to let you guys do that because I know a lot of people are really looking forward to this game. Join us on Steam, where you can talk to other members of the community. Oh, one thing I did want to note: there have been some people who have been jumping into Steam for the first time because of this game, or been jumping into the Fantasy Flight forums for the first time. There's a lot of crossover between the digital and the paper world that's happening right now. And I just wanted to thank you, everyone who has been patient with people who are entering their, communities, I guess I would say. People who are entering Steam for the first time and asking a lot of questions about it, or even entering the tabletop game for the first time. One of the things that we definitely wanted to do with this digital game was make sure that tabletop game got out to a wider audience. And so it really helps if you guys are patient and kind to people as they arrive within the game. And so far I haven't seen problems like that, but I just wanted to thank you for being facilitating to new people in the community because, we want to build something here. And, yeah, we don't want any barriers to entry because of that. So thank you all in advance for that. I saw people asking about languages. We are planning on incorporating at the launch of the game. It's going to be English, French, Italian, German, Spanish. And then post that, we are going to be looking into simplified Chinese and Portuguese. Because we know we have a lot of international fans. We want to make sure they can get their hands on the game as well. So thanks again for joining us, guys. That about clears it up for today. I will see you tomorrow for the bonus stream at 4 p.m. It's probably going to be a little bit smaller, probably going to be a little bit lower key, but, we'll be able to show you off a little bit more of the game. So thanks again. See you then, and have a good one.